Hey, this is Chuck, and you are listening to Fans with Bands, the podcast where we talk to the fans and the bands they dig about life, music, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about.
Today on Fans with Bands, we're talking to Jon Torrence. Check it out.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Fret Rescue. Located in Southeast Michigan, Joe at Fret Rescue has over 17 years of experience as a journeyman luthier. From basic setup to major repairs and restorations, you can put your trust in Fret Rescue. Contact Fret Rescue via email at fretrescue@gmail.com. You can also find them on social media by searching for Fret Rescue, @FERTRESCUE. That's Fret Rescue. There it goes. Hey, this is Chuck with Fans with Bands, and I'm talking to Jon Torrence. Jon, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Absolutely great.
Awesome. Fantastic. I got to thank Jason Heinrich for introducing me to your music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about, like, when we were planning gig, the Art of Michigan Music that happened in November. He was like, you got to, we were thinking of, like, what bands can we have? And he goes, you got to check out Jon Torrence. And I'm like, all right. So I went searching for you, found your website, found that intro song you have, Who Am I? And then I found you on Spotify, the Only Human song. And I was blown away, dude. And I was like, holy crap.
Thanks a lot, man.
I got to get this guy on the show.
I appreciate
and then
dude.
you were happy, and you were cool enough to get on the show with us, and totally loved your performance. And I thought, I got to talk to you on this thing. And so thank you so much for being on Fans with Bands.
Thank you for having me, man. It's such a cool thing. I'm always writing, always finding different ways to perform, but it makes such a big difference just having these conversations and just being able to express it in that way. Like it's awesome. I love the human connection. Like that's why I do it. So
awesome. Well, kind of getting into that. How did you get into music? When did you start playing?
Yeah. So I grew up in a musical family. My dad was a music minister at a church. So we had guitars around the house, drums, different things, and he was always playing. And then when I was in 6th grade, you try out the band thing, you do the band thing. So I played trumpet, and I was digging it, but it wasn't my thing, until my dad gave me a CD of Miles Davis ballads, and I was hooked. There was just something about him. It was something magical when I was listening to Miles. And so I would then take the trumpet and just try to mimic what Miles was doing and just play along with. I didn't even know that I was doing ear training. I just loved the music, and I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to do something with it. And so that was the first taste of, like, I love music. And then as I grew older, I picked up the guitar. I was probably 16 or 17 years old.
Okay.
I was already writing poetry, and I was super into this girl. And so I was like, what would work is if I'm like singing a song that I actually wrote. Like, this is something that she would like.
Right.
And so I started doing that and putting that together, and then fell in love with the creative aspect of the guitar, that I can take it with me wherever I go. I can write, I can just express myself, my thoughts, help me process through things.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. And ever since then, that's just how I've been going. I did go to college for music. I went to college for music education. I was a senior in high school, and I rejoined band because I was like, I feel like I want to do something with music.
Right.
But I don't know how to read. I don't know how to do it. Let me join in. So I joined in on the trumpet and did a lot of that. The high school had a small jazz combo that I could be a part of and just still do the improvisation thing and flex in that way. And it just felt natural. And then when I told my band director that I was going to go into music, he was like, okay, so like music education. I was like, well, I was thinking performance. And he just encouraged me. If you know how to play, you can play. You don't need a piece of paper that tells you can play.
Right.
So go for education, because that could open some other doors for you as far as finding a job afterwards. And I didn't know how much that would have changed my life. I had no idea because it was my sophomore year in college, and I went to a school to do some practicum experience.
Right.
And it was an elementary school. They had a bunch of guitars in the back, and I was supposed to just teach the kids music because you have to feel, you have to like experience every aspect of music
Right.
within education. And I was like, wait, you could do some really cool stuff with this, and ended up experimenting a little bit and had a ball with it. Like it was just super fun.
That's
And then I
awesome.
fell in love with education. And that was not something that I had even thought of before.
Wow,
So
that's crazy. That,
yeah,
but I got to imagine that that was helpful in terms of like giving you something that, because it's very hard to make a living as a musician. You
yeah,
probably know this, you know.
yeah, yeah,
So being able to have the education background to fall back on. But then also I'm thinking like when you're talking about that, it seems like, and this could just be my perception, that music education has been kind of cut out of schools. So were you still, was that still a challenge for you to try to find a position where you could use your skills as a musician and in
yeah.
education?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. For my story, no, it was not. The short of it, I graduated in 2010 and found a job just a few months later, and was able
Awesome.
to get started. But I was under the impression that by this point, there's a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity that's happening within the field. And
Yeah.
as I was looking for resources and trying to, do stuff for a first class teaching kids that I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, there was not. It was very dry. There was not stuff that I would be like proud to share with the students and engage with them in that way. And
Yeah.
so I already had been writing. So I'm like, I'm just going to start writing music for these students because young people deserve to have music that they enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for concerts, I would write music. There would be sometimes it'd be influence in hip hop, sometimes R&B, sometimes folk, rock, all these different things because I loved every genre of music. I'm just
Right.
in it. I love it. And so I'm able to pull from these different places. And I've been teaching for 15 years now. So that lent itself to a lot of diversity within the kinds of songs that we're able to do.
Yeah.
Some are full stories where there'll be characters and plot, and others will just be sets of songs. And every year, that's just what I've been doing, not even realizing, or as the years would go on, that now I have a catalog of all
Yeah.
of
I was
this
gonna
music
say
that I can
huge.
pull from. Yeah, yeah, that I can pull from. And it's been great because you have the immediate feedback of the people right there as the kids
Yeah.
are reacting with the songs, and if they dig it, if they don't dig it, if I need to tweak something, I'll even in nowadays I do invite my students into the process of writing, like, hey guys, I'm doing this song and here's the concept, this is what I'm thinking of, and this is what I
Right.
have so far, like, you guys got any ideas? And so they love the fact that they have a like a hand in it, they have
Yeah,
a
that's
stamp
awesome.
on it. So when we're doing our performances and everything, the kids, they're moving, they're having a good time, man. I'm having a
That's
good
cool.
time. So it's not just it started off as like, oh, I want education as something to fall back on,
Yeah.
and then ended up falling in love with doing that kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
that was unexpected, but at the same time, never letting go of who I am and the kind of creative work that I want to do. So I'm still gigging pretty heavily, even if it's just the weekend warrior stuff. And
Right.
then in the summers, things open up, um, and still writing. I've had some really cool opportunities that have come my way where I've been able to. I was recently invited to go on a tour of Indonesia with this
Really?
jazz fusion group. So I did
Awesome.
that with Drew Tucker. I was with him through end of last April and beginning of May, 3 week
Wow.
long thing. And that was, oh my gosh, that was awesome.
I can't
So it's like,
imagine. Yeah.
it's awesome, man. I'm
That's
grateful.
that's
I'm
super
grateful.
cool. That's super cool. So what are the age groups of kids that you're teaching?
It has changed throughout my career. I'm currently teaching kindergarten through fourth grade students. So that's 5 years old to about 9 and 10.
9. Yeah.
Mhm.
Nice.
And
Nice.
then, but I have done things where I am teaching at the middle school
Okay.
level, And then that was a history of music and guitar class that I created the curriculum for, because I was given all of the students that didn't want to do band, orchestra, or choir. They just had general music. And I was like,
Right.
I'm not trying to have 13 and 14-year-olds just staring at me like, what you got, man?
Yeah.
And so I created this class, which we went through late 1800s and then all the way in through the 2000s. And throughout the different eras, we would learn the songs, learn what was going on in history, and how that goes hand in hand with music. And then I had gone throughout the community and had a bunch of people donate guitars. Some people, the school provided some of them, but we
Yeah.
had enough guitars for all the kids. So I
Oh,
would teach
cool.
them some chords throughout the year,
Right.
and they would then play a song from that era, from that time period.
Wow.
And that was
Yeah.
super fun and a blessing. Like, dude, I've had some kids reach out to me that are adults now, and there's a few of them are guitar players. Like, they're like,
Really?
that was where I first had my hands on the guitar, and now
Oh,
this is like
man.
my jam. One of my former students is in the Marine jazz band, and like all this different stuff. And it's like,
That's
man,
so cool.
that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's
Absolutely
wild.
crazy. So
So now,
yeah,
so you, yeah, man, I love this aspect that you kind of fell into the teaching, and it's been so rewarding. Like, did had you ever taught before? Like, before you
no,
got into it, that you just like this is what I'm going to try to do, and then,
yeah,
but you
yeah,
seem
that
to have,
is.
you must have a natural affinity for it then. But I mean, to be able I mean, putting together the lesson plans and then conveying
Mm,
it in a way that makes it not, I mean, because I've been to some music classes, where it's like just dry as a bone and you're like, oh my God. And
mm,
even like, when you're studying music, sometimes you get a teacher and it's just like, oh, but then I took um, jazz guitar with Johnny Lawrence over at
yeah,
Washtenaw Community College. That was mind blowing. I mean,
yeah.
I kind of sucked at it, but just realizing that you could just, he would play different chords and you had to pick out, you had just sort of ear training where you're trying to figure out like, is that augmented? Is that diminished? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it was just wild. He just
Yeah.
had this great affinity for it. So did you, so you hadn't taught before, but like, was there something in you that said like, yeah, I can do this and not, because I personally would be
Yeah.
like, oh, terrified.
Yeah. No, so I hadn't taught before. And that could just be a thing of luck of the draw, that it just happened to work out, that I
Yeah.
did have the mental concept of how I need to convey a message to a young person.
Yeah.
And I would learn and I would watch a lot. I would always record myself so I could hear myself and see what I'm doing and critique myself. That was something that I did early on.
Okay.
Uh, and just so I could fix lesson plans and figure things out. And there's a lot of times I'm sure that I was just drowning. But throughout those times, I was also learning and learning what not to do, learning how to fix it. So year after year, it did, just like any other profession, you chisel away at yourself and you can kind of get more of a distinct or clear picture
Yeah. Yeah.
of what you need to do. I loved shows like The Muppets when I was a kid growing up, Fraggle Rock, and all these
Yeah.
colorful characters. And I loved humor, but also the fact that something could be smart and short, like a throwaway joke, and you would be like, "Did he just say that?" No, he didn't just say that. Okay, but we're on to the next thing. Let me lock in
Yeah.
and then when I was in college, I had a professor, Clint Fox, and he taught piano to the students that didn't know how to play piano, which was
Yeah.
me, So, but his candor, the way that he spoke, the amount of goofiness that guy had, and joy,
Yeah.
that was translating. And I just looked forward to the class, and I learned how to maneuver on the piano and how to write and how to accompany myself and do different things. And that stuck with me, the way that guy made me feel, even though I was a college kid. So I was 19, 20 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
But the way that we vibed, it was like, I would love to do that for somebody else,
Yeah.
because it sticks with me still to this day. Um, Going into teaching, I think about myself as there's like a persona. There's there is Mr. Torrance is it's like a late night show, you know.
Right.
The kids will come in, there's a monologue, there's jokes, there's familiar routines that they will know.
Yeah.
Like a silly thing, like I have a bell on my desk which just says ring for coffee. And so I'll be in the middle of teaching a concept and then I'll just pick it up and I'll stop and just like, wait, coffee break. And so then I'll take a sip and the kids like, oh my God, you can't do this. And then we continue on with the lesson. So just things like that that build into this whole character, this whole environment
Yeah.
where the students are ready to uh, explore different cultures because we're listening and singing music that's in Portuguese and Spanish and German and Japanese and French and English. And we're looking at the history of it. We take all these little microcosms and we kind of auger down into something. And then
Right.
we have a musical concept that I also will teach them within that moment. And then we'll also perform. So we'll play instruments, xylophones, different kinds of glockenspiels. I have all kinds of drums and congas. I have bongos and
Man.
toms and djembes. And so I want the students to have their hands on it
Yeah.
and to just leave my class with that experience because it's still the young students. So a lot
Right.
of the stuff that we're actually doing, they're going to forget about, you
Right,
know?
right.
But the moments and the feelings and that they could go on and be like, no, I mean, I like music, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
like music. So then they're going to listen to something. I had a high schooler who wrote me a letter and sent it to the elementary school so and I read it. And he's a guitar player now. And I didn't teach guitar at the school, but
Oh, okay.
he said, I first learned about AC/DC and Queen in your class. And that sent me on this path. And now I know good music is what he was saying.
That's
so I was
awesome.
like, okay.
That is
Good,
so
good job,
awesome.
Derek. Yeah. So different stuff like that, man. It's pretty sweet. And I don't want to take it for granted.
Yeah.
So always writing, always performing, always creating and expressing.
Yeah. So I mean, to be able to like share that with those kids, it sounds like you are sort of, and you've alluded to it yourself and said it in so much, is that you're kind of a musical explorer. You're just taking in whatever, all these different instruments and that passion. Do you think that started, just with the trumpet? Were you always fascinated with music to that degree, that it just kept going on and on as you were growing up, basically?
Yeah. So I think where it started for me was just the concept of creating something that at one point wasn't there, and then I do something, and now you have this thing.
Yeah.
Me and my older brother would record on a cassette tape. We would have a radio show where we would talk, and we'd record ourselves into this little boombox, and then we would hold that little microphone, that little Radio Shack microphone, up to the TV screen. We would have like Sonic the Hedgehog playing,
Yeah.
and we would record the background music of Sonic the Hedgehog, and that would be the next song. And we'd introduce them like a band, like this is Sonic and the Knuckleheads, and then we like hold the microphone up so you could have it. And we had personas and names and different things, skits that we would do. And then on another aspect, I would always write stories. I had a typewriter. I would just come up with different scenarios, characters, and they would have little short stories that they're on a floppy disk somewhere, and I don't know what happened. But there was writing. I also love visual art, so I would draw comic books. I would make comic books of different characters that were in the vein of different video games or superheroes that I've seen, and they would have fully fleshed out stories, and some of them would be complete ripoffs of like Wolverine or something like that. But it was just me exploring and just doing my own thing. And then when the music started happening, I loved that I could play notes, I could make melodies, I could do something that other people couldn't do just because I'm Jon. Yeah. And so it's not that mine is better or worse. It's just that it was me. Yeah. And I loved that concept. That jazz opened up a world of improvisation, and I could just, you play the head and you're doing your thing, but then the space is just open and you just get to play in a different way. And I love it. Love it, man.
Besides jazz and being in band. Have you ever played in groups, other than, because I know when I saw you, it was you solo.
Yeah.
Um, have you done other bands? Where are there bands in your career?
Yeah, man. Um, I I have played in church bands. I have, whether it's just electric guitar or acoustic and singing. I played trumpet in gospel groups.
Hmm.
I have uh, played with buddies of mine that are also musicians, and we
Yeah.
just do duo sets, and we'll trade off electric and acoustic, or maybe both on electric and just doing rhythm and lead, or just different things like that. I also play the banjo and the ukulele,
Nice.
and so throwing that in just they're on jam sessions with buddies,
Yeah.
or in how I'm writing songs.
Uh-huh.
I again, with this musical exploration thing, I have a whole back catalog of songs that I've written that are just sitting on a hard drive right now that I'm fleshing out in different ways here and there. But they use accordion, ukulele, banjo, guitar, drums, trumpet, flute, recorder, like just all these different things, just because it's fun. And I'm obviously not proficient. I'm not like
Yeah,
bluegrass
yeah.
players. Oh my gosh.
I know
Like it's
those
something
guys.
different. That's a different world, man. But I love it. I love the sound, and it makes me think creatively different. When I
Yeah.
pick up a banjo, it'll break me of certain things that I'm thinking of when I have a guitar. I have my go-tos when I pick up the guitar.
Right,
But
right.
when I pick up a banjo, it's like I have to think as a
Yeah,
totally different player. And
yeah,
that helps with writing. It helps with improvisation. I'll come up with different melodies. Um, so sorry, to get back to the question. Yes, I have played with bands, and
yeah.
that's a lot of fun when I get the opportunity to just serve the song in that way. And
Right.
I'm just on electric guitar.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love it.
Awesome.
Absolutely love it.
Awesome. So when when you're writing songs and your own music, are you thinking in terms of like a particular like either lyrical or emotional theme that you want to portray, or are you experimenting with notes and sounds and then that develops into a song?
Most often, so there's not any clear cut way. It changes from time to time.
Hmm.
But most often, when I'm a father of two, and there's a lot of they're young. So my
Yeah.
son is 12 and my daughter is 6.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of my being present that, is just there.
Yeah.
So when I find a time to write, it is a sacred time and it feels really good. So I'll often be riffing, and I'll just be playing, and I'll be experimenting with sound.
Uh-huh.
And as I'm getting into that state, thoughts of the day, thoughts of where my mental state is, will be floating around, things that I'm stressed out about, things that I need to do, things that
Hmm.
will all come floating and bubbling to the surface. And when that happens, I might come up with a line. And if I have a line, I'll just write it down. I have a notebook that I always have near me.
Uh-huh.
I'll just write that line down, and I might sing that over and over again, and then more things will come as the idea goes. But I've written a lot of songs by this point. I'm 36, and I was writing, since I was like poetry and everything since I was
Uh-huh.
14 or 15.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah. So
there
lots
is
of
a certain
ideas.
there is a certain muscle that I can tweak a little bit to make certain things happen,
Uh-huh.
but it's not going to be like that's not going to be good. I just know how to make the structure of songs and everything. But within that, you can find maybe a stanza, maybe a chorus or something, and I'll
Right.
be able to store that for something later. Like the rest of this sucks, but that part
That
that
part's
was good.
good.
There's something there.
Right.
And so when I write, I'm actually writing a song right now that has a motif, a lyrical motif that was from a few years ago. And I remember when I wrote it in the midst of 2020 and
Right.
lockdown and stress and different things that were happening.
Yeah.
But it fits with where my mental state is now, even though I am gratefully in a healthier mindset than what I was when I was back then. But
Right.
um, yeah, it's it's anything and everything when I'm writing.
Yeah.
And then when I do stuff for my students, that is easier. That's the muscle. I'm thinking, I want to write a song with this theme, and I'm going to fit these kinds of concepts in. How do I want my students to be built up? Like, I
Right.
don't want them to just be singing crap. What is going to make them feel good and feel empowered and want to face the day? And so I write songs that are with that theme in mind, and that comes with some experimentation, that
Yeah.
comes with some storytelling, that comes with a lot of things. Um, and I had a dad tell me last week that his son was having a really hard time and going into the school,
Right.
so he asked if he could put on Mr. Torrance's YouTube channel, because I do all my stuff and I put it on Mr. Torrance at like just YouTube, so my
Yeah.
choir students can practice and listen to the songs when they're at home.
Right.
And he said that helped him to get into the door that day.
That's
And so
cool.
I had to find that kid and be like, man, that meant so much, dude. Thank you. I'm glad that it helped.
Yeah.
And just moving in that way. So I can compartmentalize and write something sometimes it can be very stale. And so I don't like to do that. I much more prefer when I'm just in a flow state and then the song starts to fall out. That is that feeling that I got when I was a kid, and I was like, oh man, like I wrote a freaking song.
Yeah.
Like, this exists now. Um, so
That's awesome.
it's kind of everything. It's
Yeah.
kind of everything.
So do you feel like it sounds like from the, from what you've been saying so far that the the concept of working as a singer-songwriter and being a storyteller, because I think of solo musicians like they have to have a, unless they're virtuoso musicians, um, which some are, but
Yeah.
they really have to rely on being able to be a good storyteller. Did you
Yeah.
have you felt that you've always had that knack for relaying good story? And I'm guessing yes, because you were doing the comic books. But did it that muscle memory just develop from telling good stories?
I think that I consumed good stories and I loved telling them. I didn't know that I was good at it. I just did it because I wanted to, and it
Yeah,
felt right for me. And it took years of understanding in a professional career. Like, oh, I don't suck. Okay, that's kind of
it's always
fun.
good.
Yeah, yeah. And so when I would write the comics or make or draw the comics and come up with these stories, when I would do all of this, I thought of the stories that I loved and I
Yeah,
wanted and how they made me feel. As a big Star Wars kid, like
yeah,
Empire Strikes Back, I would just
yeah,
watch on repeat, man. That was my jam. Watch it on repeat. And think about what else could happen outside of that universe and outside of that
oh yeah,
world.
yeah, yeah,
And so I would just have my own expansions that would go on in my imagination.
yeah,
And I would write stuff down and I would, act stuff out and, play with lightsabers and do
yeah.
all of that. And I feel like all of that play was serving the muscle and the intentionality and the heart of what I do now.
Yeah.
And I think about storytellers throughout history. If you think about bards and minstrels, if you think about the griots in Africa, if you think about what these people were known for being storytellers, as well as there's a musical component.
Yeah.
So humans have always been wired for community and a communal experience. So community and us talking with each other and sharing life and living life, but a communal experience being like a moment or something that can move you or shift.
Yeah.
And the griots, the traveling musicians would go from places to place, and they would have stories that they've thought of, things that they've experienced from other villages, towns, and cities, and they would weave them into this poetry and these different things, and they would present them to the neighboring town, village, city, wherever, and
Yeah.
people would just be able to consume that. And it's only been within the past few hundred years that things have been recorded and
Right.
promoted all globally and all that. So I feel like the one reason why I feel grateful for the position that I have, as opposed to uh, oh man, I'm not like playing this club or this
Right,
theater.
right,
Man, it'd be
right.
so dope to do something like this. And it would be like, I'm not going
Yeah.
to say no if somebody
Right,
offers that.
right.
But something that makes me feel good is that I'm fulfilling the role that people have fulfilled for centuries and centuries and centuries. It makes
Yeah.
me feel like I'm part of something bigger. And I go to these local spots and sometimes a little bit further than local. And I
Mhm.
have conversations with people and you know, people might say, what are you doing here? You should be in LA, you should be in
Right,
Nashville, you should
right.
do whatever. And I'm like, well, that's really cool. Like I think I would enjoy that. But I have a family that has roots here, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
I'm happy and I see that there's so much that has beauty. But if there are opportunities or things that make sense, yeah, I'm going to go after that.
Right, right.
But to have the feeling of gratefulness and satisfaction and to really lean into lean into the beauty that life can be,
Yeah.
that's just something that I don't want to miss. I don't want to miss because I
Right.
know I could do all kinds of things, man. If I was, oh shoot, if I was left up to my own devices, I could really destroy a life. Okay, like,
So do you you know, thinking along those lines of the traveling kind of minstrel,
yeah.
the storyteller with a song, do you intentionally go for that now when you know when you said you're out doing gigs? Are you intentionally trying to um like live into that moment, to live into that not that moment, but you know that kind of role as
Hmm.
as a
Yeah.
teller of stories in a you know and
Now
sharing your you know your gift.
that's interesting. That is not something that I've thought about. So no, I don't intentionally step out in that role. That's mainly in my reflection when
Yeah,
I think about that.
yeah,
Um, but it would translate when I'm playing to a room that is just a few people
yeah.
and they're just kind of chilling and hanging out, or it's a packed, rowdy night at name your place, you know.
Right, right.
Uh, I'm always I'm always in it. I'm always in the moment, and I'm
Yeah,
always giving all of Jon Torrance just because that's the only way that makes sense when I'm playing music.
yeah.
I need to be at a when I was doing the when I was with Drew Tucker and doing the jazz fusion stuff, I'm playing with monster musicians that are just punching so high above my weight class. And it was
Right.
so fun, man, to just be absorbing and listening. And there are times that I was just scared because I'm like,
Yeah.
holy crap, okay.
What am I doing?
We're doing this right now. Oh, we're learning this song, learning this. Just do the song. Oh, okay, let's do the song. And there is all of this. There's no time to think. It's just go.
Yeah,
And um, if I hadn't been practicing in the way of fully giving myself, I might have held something back. And that helped me to push through and to really be able to be in the moment. And now I have these memories of playing to these crowds in these theaters in these rooms that I just didn't think that I would really get to experience. But
yeah,
had I been practicing, like, I mean, there's only like 10 people. I'm gonna just be goofy and I'm just gonna like strum away and do my thing.
right,
But
right.
I really love being in that moment because I have control and I can uh, make the room animated
Yeah,
by the things that I'm able to do. And one thing that I love, that's one reason why I love doing the looping and beatboxing stuff.
yeah,
So I have the looper board, which I've always messed around with when I was just practicing, and then I thought had the idea of doing beatboxing, and it was so cool when I saw Ed Sheeran because I did not like I saw a video of him online doing beatboxing stuff, and I was
mm.
like, okay, so people like do this, like that's a thing,
Yeah,
and so that gave me permission to be like, whoa, why don't I just take this stuff and do this live
right.
because this is kind of my bag, this is what I dig. So I do the beatboxing and then the laying down of the chords, and then able to play the trumpet and
Yeah,
have that with me at every gig. I'm just able to access all the parts of myself.
that's
Sometimes
awesome.
I'll have a keyboard that I'll bring with me and I'll play piano. There's been all kinds of stuff. So that whole exploration thing.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Have you always been bringing the trumpet with you? Is that a more recent development or?
No, I've always had the trumpet for years. For years, I would say like seven
Oh,
years or
nice,
so.
nice.
So at first, it was just me and acoustic, and then saw some random video of Ed Sheeran doing some crazy stuff. And
Uh,
so then I was like, well, I'm gonna try that
I
then.
tried that, yeah.
And so I started doing that with the loop. And then I'm like, well, if I'm already having this, I don't have to just solo on guitar. Let me bring the trumpet into the
Yeah,
mix
yeah.
because that would be fun. And I miss playing my trumpet a lot.
Right.
And so I would bring my trumpet out on gigs, and that ended up being a head turner for people too.
Hell yeah.
If there was like they're just kind of chilling and doing stuff. But then I start playing, they're like, what? Like
What's happening here?
that bro just pulled that out of his behind. Like, what is going on right now? And so it's a fun thing that I love to do. And another
Yeah.
voice that is connected to my childhood, different things that I can pull out. And I even do different arrangements of jazz standards. So I'll do like a Dizzy Gillespie tune. There's one that I do Night in Tunisia, but
Uh-huh.
there's a lyrical set that Nina Simone had done to Dizzy's song, and it's just beautiful. And it's
Yeah.
just so cool to be able to do songs like that. And then afterwards, I'll play an Incubus song. And then I'll do Dave Matthews, and I'll do an original. And I just
Right.
throw in so many songs that are from everywhere because it's speaks again to
Right.
who I am as a human.
Right.
So
That's cool. That's cool. So do you ever get I know that you're playing either small venues or maybe a bigger room, but some of them are either dedicated listening rooms and some of them are just a bar, right? And
mhm.
people are there to hang out and you are the background kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Does that ever bother you? Because I know I've talked to some musicians, they're like they can't stand it when people aren't paying attention, right? But in some situations, that's not necessarily, what people are there for. They like
Yeah.
music, but they don't. It's not the main thing they're there for. Does
Yeah.
that impact you at all, or does it change the way you think about it?
It changes so I never go in with a set list whenever I play.
Oh,
So
awesome.
I just go and I read the room I'm looking
Yeah.
because I feel like again music is this communal experience.
Right.
And so sometimes if it's more of a background thing, I'll look at the room and see ways I'm like I'm gonna make this not just a background thing. I can find ways to grab people's attention and then bring them into the moment with some standards. I'll look at or some cover songs, and I'm looking at the ages of people,
Yeah.
maybe how they're dressed and different things, and I will essentially profile, and then I'll go like, oh, I'm gonna hit some Beatles, but they haven't heard Beatles done like this before. Because
Right.
if you want to hear the Beatles, play the record. Be
Yeah.
like that is tops for me. That's like what
Right.
I listened to as a kid.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do something where there's a little melodic shift or the backing chords that I'm playing to come together. It feels a little bit off, but it's funky and
Yeah.
it's dirty and it like just makes you like gristle, like you feel the gristle a little bit.
Right.
And so I'll play things like that. I will, and that's if it serves the room because
Right.
again, as a communal experience, I want to serve the room. It doesn't do me any favors if I'm like, you guys are gonna listen to me, and I'm strumming away and beating on my guitar,
Right.
and
Right.
they're trying to have their clam chowder. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't work, man. I'm not about that life. So uh, I've had so few negative experiences. There have been some negative experiences with, I can think of maybe just a handful where people would be disrespectful in a
Yeah.
way,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But
Calling out
if
for Freebird or something like that. Over and
that's
over.
yes, yes. Oh, the free bird, man. Come on now. So when the listening to or when playing these songs, I will watch and I will curate my set list to what I see going on. And if it is in one of those rooms where it is background, like I'm just
Yeah.
playing to a dinner
Yeah.
crowd, I'll play a bunch of original tunes because I love the melodies and I love thinking of where I was when I wrote them. And I just have an experience for myself.
Yeah.
And it's every single time I do that, I have somebody come up to me or people that are talking like, I like this. Like, I like what you're doing. I wasn't expecting this, or I was a little
Yeah.
nervous when I came in here, like all these
Yeah.
different things. And it's again, I wasn't even going for it, but we had that communal experience because it was authentic. And
Yeah,
I think that's the main thing is authenticity in everything that you do.
it is.
Oh man. And it seems so simple, but it really is not. And then
Yeah,
sometimes it is.
yeah. It can be hard to be, because you know, a lot of times music, all artists talk about being original, right? But
Yeah.
we are all derivatives of, you know, millennia of humans, right? We can't help that, and so um, I think sometimes we get hung up in that wanting to be this original, unique thing, which you
Yeah.
are just by your DNA and your
Yeah.
expression. Your voice is going to sound different. Everything's going to be a little bit different. But then there also is going to be things that aren't like necessarily original. And I think if you
Yeah.
get hung up in that too much, you just you lose that authenticity, right? Because you're
Yeah.
trying to be something you're not, and it's
For sure.
yeah,
Oh, for sure.
crazy. So beyond Miles Davis, when you got the
Hmm.
Miles Davis album, what were some influences for you? So go back in your childhood and think
Yeah.
about those. But then also like, what have been some recent influences that have been
Mm.
impacting you?
Excellent question, man. When I was a kid, a young one, like 7, 8 years old, 6, 5, all that I had music from movies
Hmm.
that I would watch. Muppets, they always had musical numbers, Disney movies, just things like that.
Yeah,
Um, and I had an affinity for them. There was something where it connected with me in that form. But I didn't like music that just people listen to.
yeah.
But that's just because I thought music was only gospel music or rap.
Wow.
And that's all my brothers would play was rap. All my and I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. And that's my and then my parents would listen to gospel. And I'm like, this is music. It all sounds the same. I want something more. And I didn't know. So what I would do in the car is I would have my Game Boy and I would have like a video game like Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, Mega Man, and I would have the headphone jack in and I would just listen to the background music.
Yeah.
And I just liked what was going on there. I
Right.
liked what was happening. Later on, I would learn in life as I learned more about music that there are complex jazz oriented when you think of Mario and Mega Man and Sonic. There's classical and orchestral when you think of Final Fantasy and Legend of Zelda. There's all
Yeah.
these different parts and pieces that come together that formed. I was like, so I was getting little tastes of what it was. Like it wasn't a full glass of water. It was like maybe sparkling, like
Yeah.
sparkling grape juice or something. And I was like,
Right.
it's not water, but it's almost water. And so being able to experience that when I was older, that all made sense. So I was always into complex arrangements and
Mhm.
things that were moving,
Yeah.
things that had shifted. And then when I did get older, I, had a great appreciation for gospel and rap.
Yeah.
So that all comes back in, but I needed to be cleansed of that. I needed my palate cleansed. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I went hardcore when I was, 12 and 13. I went hardcore into DMX and Limp Biscuit and Corn and like all of these different things. Like that was just the music that I was into.
Yeah.
Then got a little older in high school and fell in with a group that we all tried to act like we were from the 60s. So we go to Goodwill and buy, big flares,
Yeah.
flare pants and like bell bottoms, different things like that. I started growing my locks out and putting hemp and different stuff in my
Yeah.
hair. And we would listen to the Beatles, Hendrix, Pink Floyd, Clapton, Bob Marley, all of these different artists that informed my musical taste so greatly. And that was at the time where I was also just starting to pick up the guitar.
Okay. Cool.
And in the modern era, back then in that modern era, in the early 2000s, late 90s, it was also a lot of Radiohead resonated with me.
Oh
So
wow.
much
Cool.
radio. Like I
Awesome.
would just be sitting in my room, staring at the ceiling with all the lights turned off and listening to Kid A or OK Computer, just
Yeah.
on repeat and just
Awesome.
visualizing sound and just all of that stuff. So a lot of electronic stuff that's helped me. That's helped inform my writing in the digital realm because I love weird sounds and different kinds of things. What they can, how they can make you think. That's not what I
Yeah.
perform, but
Yeah.
that's a lot of stuff that I write and can play. Um, And in modern times, sorry, last thing, guitar influences. I had Jimi Hendrix, and that was wild because I had listened to the music, but then when I saw a picture of him, I was like, that dude looks like me. Like I can like that is okay. And that like had a light bulb go off, and now I was like, Hendrix is my dude. So I'm just gonna like auger it. I'm just gonna figure out what's going on and that kind of electric guitar playing.
Yeah.
Um, and then that introduced me to John Mayer because he did
Oh
like some
yeah.
performance, and a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, you like Hendrix? Like, look what this kid's doing right now." And
Yeah.
this kid, he was like 10 years older than me, but that turned me on to him. And then he had the chord shapes, and I was like, that sounds like jazz. He's doing jazz chords and do different things, but in a pop orientation. Like there's all this stuff going on. So
Yeah.
that was an influence. And then Dave Matthews, I
Oh
would
yeah.
just watch DVDs of him and try to mimic the chords that he's doing, those weird hand bender, like just the crazy stuff. And so that's how I learned guitar. And then a very passionate balladeer named Damian Rice. Those are
Oh.
my three pillars. And he just does simple chords. He just plays. Oh man, when he
Yeah.
plays a C chord with that, he just gets it. So there, those are the three framework players that I would listen to, and that has informed my playing greatly. In the modern era, I'm listening to a lot of different things. It depends on my mood because I still listen to different hip hop artists like No
Uh,
Big Deal, and I listen to Andy Mineo, and then there's then when thinking in the rock or pop world, I jump around. Oh man, let me think of. Hold on, let me narrow this down because I could just go, but I want to actually have a landing here with this. Who I'm listening to right now is a lot of medium build. I like his writing. It's really interesting. And it feels again that authenticity, that
yeah.
that
Yeah.
line. So medium build, I'm listening to Dawes and the Winnetka Bowling League. I listen to um Bleachers. And so it's these independent artists, Michigander. I listen to just a lot of
Yeah.
different stuff in that way. Um, and then within the folk or just a more acoustic or Americana, whatever you say, I
Yeah.
listen to songwriters like Joe Pug and Jason Isbell. I listen to I listen to oh shoot, I'm not gonna remember these names. There's some singers. Madison. Oh, I wish I had a phone to like look up stuff right now because it goes from place to place. Um,
It might come to you after.
it'll come to me, man. It'll come to me. There's collaborate collectives. I listen to collectives like Scary Pockets, where
Uh,
they will have different artists come in. I listen to Stories, which is other they do cover songs, but in an acoustic format that is an incredibly heartfelt and beautiful. One of my favorite ones is Teenage Dirtbag right now, and I listen to that song on repeat because it's so heartbreaking when
oh,
you
well,
listen to it. Oh,
oh,
I recommend anybody to listen to Teenage Dirtbag by Stories.
awesome.
Oh, it's so good. Um, and then I listen to a lot of funk, like modern players, Snarky Puppy, Mark Lettieri, Corey Wong. I listen to balladeers like Cody Fry with these huge sweeping orchestral pieces with 60 70 piece orchestra, and he's
Yeah.
playing piano and singing his heart out. He just released, actually he's nominated for a Grammy for this right now, and it is The Sound of Silence with
Oh,
Sleeping at Last and Cody Fry.
wow.
Oh,
Awesome.
and they almost got a Grammy for Eleanor Rigby that they did a few years ago with a 400 piece choir because they asked people, fans, to come in and, hey, just send us an audio file of you singing the chorus on Eleanor
Right.
Rigby.
Yeah.
And so they had 400 submissions that they cut off at that. And then the song sounds massive, man. It is. So these grand ideas, the small, just single solo acoustic, the power trios, the hip hop, the R&B, the neo soul. Like I'm everywhere and listen to it all,
That's
man.
awesome, man. That's fantastic. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm gonna, well, I'm definitely gonna spin back through this because I gotta take some notes because that's what I love about, talking with people is because it opens your mind to so many
Yeah.
different things that you may not necessarily be, because, we're creatures of habit. We kind of get into our rhythms, we like, all right, I'm listening to, what the hell was I listening to earlier today? Oh, Carcass and, so some death metal, and then I was listening
Yeah.
to Aqualung by Jethro
Yeah.
Tull, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, all right, I got to break out of my role,
Yeah.
my rhythm here and get into something else. So that's what I
Uh-huh.
always love about this is like getting some ideas for different music.
That's awesome, man. I love that. Love it.
So do you remember your very first gig that you ever played out, and
Ooh.
and what did you take away from that?
Oh man. So that's doing some searching. I was 17 and it was at a coffee house, Sherry's Coffee House in little old Norwalk, Ohio. Um, and I was learning some songs and I had a whole set, maybe 12 to 15 songs or so.
Uh,
And I was playing I had a garage band. I did have a garage band that I played with when I was
all
a
right.
kid. And we had weird eclectic music because we wanted everybody's voice heard. And so each track would sound like in a completely different
Different.
band. Oh man, it was a mess, a fun mess.
Yeah.
I fond memories, but I was like,
What are
let's
we
not,
doing?
let's just not. Um, and so I got more proficient on guitar and playing chords. So I had learned a bunch of Damien Rice songs, a few originals, and some Dave Matthews. And I'm sure there's a John Mayer in there or something like that.
Yeah.
So I would play that set in the coffee house, and I had a bunch of my high school friends that were there, and
Uh-huh.
they just sat, and I remember playing and singing, and I had a buddy of mine and she was singing with me, and this was the moment for me where I was like, I'm gonna find the girl that I like picked up the guitar
Yeah.
for. Like she was in
Right.
the crowd, and so like I was singing to her from one of the songs, and I was like, oh yeah, dude, you got it. So dumb, dude. But I will say that she is my wife now, so it did work. It ended up working. But
Yeah.
just I think about my mindset, and I
Right.
was like, wow, you fell into the guitar, dude. So I was playing that, and what something that I took away from it was that I was scared out of my wits. I was scared,
Yeah.
but I accomplished something that only John Torrance had done. Just that,
Yeah.
a million other people play coffee shop sets.
Right.
But
Right.
I was like, I'm the only Jonathan Michael Torrance that has done this, to my knowledge.
Right.
And so that felt really cool and
Yeah.
unique to not make it a contest or like, oh, I should be doing it like this or I should be doing it like this. But that
Right.
was purely just, I love playing the guitar and I love sharing this. And this gives me an opportunity to do that.
That's cool. That's awesome.
So, and that has honestly stayed with me. I haven't even thought about that, but that's a main motivator that I get to do this and share it with people.
Yeah. That's cool.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So what are you looking forward to in 2025? What do you got
Ooh, mm,
on tap for you musically?
man. Uh, I am looking forward to a little bit more, not compartmentalization, but just having 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 my tracks in which I'm following, in which I'm doing,
Hmm.
more evened out, so that I can pursue these different things, these different worlds of John Torrance. I have a handful of songs that I'm really proud of right now that I want to uh, put into an EP or an album. It
Oh,
could
cool.
go either way,
Right.
depending on how I want to think about them, because some of them are stylistically different. And I'm really excited. I've been playing them live, and it's been fun.
Cool.
My oldest brother, is out in LA, and he does the mixing and mastering for all the songs and everything, because he's also a musician. And it's fun
Nice.
to have that collaboration, that back and forth with him,
Yeah.
to like just kind of send stuff out, and he'll have notes. He plays bass on the songs. He adds different instruments. So it's like it's a collaborative effort with the two
That's
of us,
cool.
and it's fun that like so many miles away we
Yeah.
are able to just have that thing. So we have some songs there that I want to do. Um, I've been doing more with scoring and arranging and releasing music that I've been doing for music education.
Oh,
With
cool.
the stuff that I do with my students, I've had enough teachers reaching out in the DMs and asking about, hey, can I have this song? Does this song exist anywhere? Is there a way that I can purchase this? And after a while, I was just like, I feel like I just need to start doing this, because I thought
Yeah.
other people, it seemed natural to me that other music teachers would just start writing their own thing.
Right.
Just because I've done that ever since I was a kid, but not really thinking like people aren't necessarily doing that, and they're still looking for resources. And I'm like, I would love to provide that for
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
I've been slowly releasing songs on my website, jontorrancemusic.com, and they can buy sheet music. And in that package they purchase, they would get the sheet music and the individual tracks, as well as an audio track of my voice singing the song and the background music, a track of, none of my voice, and then
Right.
just the instrumental. They would also have a stripped down track with maybe just piano or just guitar, because
Right.
they might not want the full big sound. And then I'm like, so I have the copyrighted stuff all taken care of with BMI and
Hmm.
all of that. So I'm just be able to send that out. So I want to do more with that, because it's been
Yeah.
fun seeing the response and people performing. They'll send me videos like of their middle school choir out in Washington, and they're singing the song that I wrote, and it's just really cool to
That's
see it live
awesome.
on in that way.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I have more songs that I want to release in that vein. And then I have a lot of freelance projects that I do. I write instrumental music for podcasts and different things, where
Cool.
there might be some more of that, like I can tap into that Radiohead stuff with the
Yeah.
weird sounds, just different elements that can come up. Um, and all of this I'm going to be releasing under Jon Torrence, but then also the music teacher stuff is going to be Jon Torrence, and then as a co-artist, Mr. Torrence,
Ah,
and then the music stuff, Jon Torrence, and then the Native Heart, and then some stuff is just going to be Jon Torrence. So it's all going to funnel back down to that. But that's in 2025. I really want to focus on that aspect of it, because I haven't given it the time of day in which it really deserves,
yeah.
and I'm excited to do that.
That sounds awesome, man.
So
That sounds
yeah,
really cool.
and that on top of recording and or playing and performing, just because I have stuff that keeps on coming in and more opportunities for me to play original music.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun doing things like that. A
That's
lot of
cool.
fun. So
Awesome,
yeah,
man.
man.
Awesome, dude. Well, John, it was so great, good to talk with you on Fans with Bands. I really appreciate you being on. I've got one last question for you, and that
Yeah.
is pineapple or no pineapple on pizza?
Oh, pineapple or no pineapple on pizza. Uh, that has to be a mood thing, man. Because sometimes if I'm wanting a pizza, I want salt, I want savory, I want something about the sweet kind of messes me up. But a
Yeah.
good Hawaiian, like when you have the ham and you have the pineapple,
Yeah.
I can get down on that. Like that sounds that can be good, but I have to know ahead of time. I
Yeah.
have to know ahead of time. You can't just say, "Hey, John, let's like hang out for pizza," and then throw one of those and like there's pineapple. That's a personal affront to me as a human.
Right.
And I thought we knew each other better.
Right.
I thought you didn't hate me. Um, and so I needed preparation, but I don't hate it. I
Yeah.
just need that mental
Yeah.
psyching up.
The heads
But I
up to get in
do
that space.
I do, yeah. But I pepperoni, bacon, banana peppers, olives,
Nice.
mushrooms, like all that stuff. Like
Yeah. That's all. That sounds good to me.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Awesome, man. Well, John, thanks again, man, for so much for being on Bands with Bands.
Thanks for having me, man. This has been a blast. It's been really
Awesome.
cool, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Take care.
Take care.
All right.
Many thanks to Jon Torrence for joining me on this episode of Bands with Bands. It was a huge honor and thrill to spend some time with such an inspiring person. Jon not only crafts fantastic music, he is a music teacher who is passing on his gift to future generations. I actually want to be a kid again so that I can be in Mr. Torrance's classroom. I'm looking forward to seeing Jon performing live and hearing new music in the coming year. See the show notes for all the details and links.
Bands are nothing without you, the fans. Purchasing music and merchandise is critical to their survival. If you can help out your favorite bands, please do. If you're in Michigan, consider following the Playing in Detroit Area Tonight and SE for Southeast Michigan Music Facebook pages. They are fantastic places for bands and bands to support each other and share our combined love of music. Thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast service to get each and every episode of Bands with Bands. Spread the word by rating the show, telling your friends, telling your neighbors, telling your family, telling your priest, tell everyone, and leave a comment. We want to hear what you think. You can keep in touch by following us on social media. This is a Life in Michigan production. Until next time, be well and kick out the jam.